Boaz is a major figure in the Book of Ruth in the Bible. The term is found 24 times in the scriptures, being 2 in Greek. The root, just used in the Bible in relation to Boaz, perhaps expresses quick, ness. In the Bible, according to Josephus, he lived at the time of Eli. Son of Rachab and Salmon, Boaz was a wealthy landowner of Bethlehem, and kinsman of Elimelech, Naomi's late husband. He noticed Ruth, the widowed Moabite daughter-in-law of Naomi, a relative of his, gleaning grain in his fields. He soon learns of the difficult circumstances her family is in and Ruth's loyalty to Naomi. In response, Boaz invites her to eat with him and his workers, as well as deliberately leaving grain for her to claim while keeping a protective eye on her. Ruth approaches Boaz and asks him to exercise his right of kinship and marry her. Boaz accepts, provided that another with a superior claim declines. Since the first son of Ruth and a kinsman of her late husband would be deemed the legal offspring of the decedent and heir to Elimelech, the other kinsman defers to Boaz. In marrying Ruth, Boaz revives Elimelech's lineage, and the patrimony is secured to Naomi's family. For those substituting, redeeming factors, Ruth's husband is considered by Christians to be a type of Jesus of Nazareth. Their son was Obed, father of Jesse, and grandfather of David. Boaz is mentioned in both the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke as an ancestor of Jesus. The temple, Boaz was the name of the left one of the 2 frontal columns of Solomon's temple. Its meaning is under controversy. Empty upper. Ref to the above Boaz, CFTH, 2ch 317, key unregistered trademark Ra, therefore, is very probably an acronym. THES supposes name of architect or donor. UPERH. Sons of Solomon, etc. RD. Possibly O degree to the first in strength, TH2CH 317 a 1/4 degree I florin III. TH thinks unregistered trademark YA sentence, one word being engraved on each pillar, he establisheth in strength. Against him, however, KB. AT thinks an exclamation, in strength. Expressing satisfaction of architect. Cloprop. 4. The expression 001/4 A to the first, rabbinic Jewish tradition, conduct, in the Talmud, some rabbis identify Boaz with the Judgibson of Bethlehem. That is, Bethlehem in Zebulun. Cf. Joshua 19:15. Let it be taken into consideration, however, that Boaz of Ruth was from Judah, whereas the 2 chieftains immediately ulterior to Ibzan were from Zebulun. A legend is given that he lost all his 60 children during his lifetime because he did not invite Manoah, Samson's father, to any of the marriage festivities at his house. Since Manoah was at that time without children, Boaz thought that he did not need to consider on such occasions a childless man who could not pay him back in kind. The Talmud tells that Boaz was a just, pious, and learned judge. The custom of using the divine name in greeting one's fellow man formulated by him and his Bet Din received the approval of even the heavenly Bet Din. The Midrash Ruth Rabbah states that being a pious man, Boaz on his first meeting with Ruth perceived her conscientiousness in picking up the grain, as she strictly observed the rules prescribed by the law. This, as well as her grace and her chaste conduct during work, induced Boaz to inquire about the stranger, although he was not in the habit of inquiring after women. In the conversation that followed between Boaz and Ruth, the pious proselyte said that, being a Moabite, she was excluded from association with the community of God. Boaz, however, replied that the prohibition in the scripture applied only to the men of Moab and not to the women. He furthermore told her that he had heard from the prophets that she was destined to become the ancestress of kings and prophets. And he blessed her with the words, "May God, who rewards the pious, also reward you." Boaz was especially friendly toward the poor stranger during the meal, when he indicated to her by various symbolic courtesies that she would become the ancestress of the Davidic royal house, including the Messiah. As toward Ruth, Boaz had also been kind toward his kinsmen, Naomi's sons, on hearing of their death, taking care that they had an honorable burial. Boaz and Ruth, although Boaz was the prince of the people, he personally supervised the threshing of the grain in his barn. in order to circumvent any immorality or theft, both of which were rife in his days. Glad in his heart that the famine was over in Israel, he sought rest after having thanked God and studied for a while in the Torah. Aroused out of his first sleep by Ruth, he was greatly frightened, as he thought that she was a devil. And he was convinced of the contrary only after touching the hair of her head, since devils were believed to be bald. When he perceived the pure and holy intentions of Ruth, he not only did not reprove her for her unusual behavior, but he blessed her, and gave her 6 measures of barley, indicating thereby that 6 pious men should spring from her, who would be gifted by God with 6 excellences. Boaz fulfilled the promises he had given to Ruth, and when his kinsman would not marry her because he did not know the halakha which decreed that Moabite women were not excluded from the Israelitic community, Boaz himself married her. Boaz was 80 and Ruth 40 years old, but their marriage did not remain childless, though Boaz died the day after his wedding. In Zionist history, in the early years of Zionist settlement, the term ʻboʊʄaz, derived from the biblical character, was used to refer to a rich private farmer or landowner, such as the ones who flourished during the first Aliyah. The term was often used with a pejorative connotation by adherents of socialist Zionism, who were strongly opposed to the ʻboʊʄazim, and counterposed to them the collective kibbutz and cooperative moshav forms of agricultural settlement. This use of ʻboʊʄaz became obsolete in later stages of Zionist and Israeli history, and is hardly remembered today. In contemporary Israel, ʻboʊʄaz is commonly used as a male first name and carries no special political or social connotations. In popular culture, in the 1960 film adaptation The Story of Ruth, Boaz is played by Stuart Whitman. See also, Goal, references. Further reading